Thanks, Nora. Thanks for the introduction. Very kind of you. And it's very kind of you guys to invite me back here to Veszprém. As some of you know, I was lucky enough to be involved in the as a consultant to the team that won the title, and so it's nice to play a little part. But it's I've got a dream team of 6 people here with various experiences of European Capital of Culture, from 2008 myself right up to the present day with Kuldar, who's involved in this year's European Capital of Culture in Tartu, which is also Veszprém's twin city. Very interesting that Greg talked about an unpronounceable Dutch city that didn't get the title. I also remember Székesfehérvár, who was a competitor with Veszprém, and people were really worried about Székesfehérvár in terms of whether they would win the title, and I said nothing to worry about because the European Commission isn't going to give the title to a city whose name nobody outside the country can pronounce. But there we are. That's another story. Anyway, we're going to talk about legacy. We're going to talk about what happens after European Capital of Culture, because this is the title of the conference. But I'm just going to very quickly introduce my fellow panelists. András from Pécs. Actually, next year it'll be the 15th year since Pécs was European Capital of Culture. So 15 years on, what's the legacy? Very interested to hear about that. Kuldar, I've already mentioned, from Tartu, the CEO. Sara from Novi, European Capital of Culture in 2022, originally 2021, but a thing called COVID came along and everything got pushed back. And my colleagues Ramóna from Timișoara and Zetta from Eleusis in Greece were also supposed to be 2021 years, but actually were sharing the year with Veszprém. And of course, the wonderful Friderika here, who many of you will know from Veszprém, and was program director. So they're the guys who are going to tell us a little bit about how legacy has or hasn't worked in their city. So I'm very, very glad that you're here with me. I'm going to ask them the questions. I may pop in with a few little examples from Liverpool here or there. I mean, Liverpool, it's 15 years, believe it or not, since Liverpool was European Capital of Culture. And when you think, well, what's the legacy? Actually, last year was an interesting legacy in our 15th year, because Liverpool hosted Eurovision in place of the Ukraine. And the Eurovision competition was held in the new arena that was part of our opening weekend. So that wasn't a bad 15-year legacy, really, I suppose, for Liverpool. And I always think that the European Capital of Culture legacy can fall into 4 aspects. And I'm going to ask all of our panelists in different ways about them. There's an organizational legacy. Is there an organization that can carry things forward? Is there finance? Is there money? Is there cultural programming? We've seen about the importance of continuing the cultural programming, but also emotion. We saw it from Charles, we've seen it from Greg a little bit about how the city feels about itself, and does that emotion carry on? So those are some of the things that we'll look at. But I'm going to start asking some questions of the group. I'm going to turn to Kuldar first, because he's in the middle of it at the moment. Arts of survival is the concept for Tartu. You are surviving, Kuldar. I can see very well you're surviving. What have you learned? And you know, is there anything you might do differently before you start your legacy organization?
Hello. I am not at home. That's why I think I will speak some things also what went wrong. I'm not talking at home, please. But yes, for example, opening party. It's one of the highlights. Every ECOC knows this. And our opening party was in January in Estonia. Outside party -10, more perfect. And a lot of people, great party. A lot of people, 10,000+. All was okay. Let's say all was normal. It means that if Estonian says normal, then it means that very good. And next morning, our media house called to me and sent the email also that what was the cost of opening party? I tried to avoid this question, but finally I said that, okay, it was 900,000 euros. They said, oh, shame, 1 million euros. You know, we have in Estonia teachers strike now, and teachers, they demand a higher salary, and you put 1 million to opening party. Okay, I said that next time I know we can do some free of charge party also, when I will sing, I will play the guitar and my songs, and it will be a free of charge. But maybe one problem that in audience will be only my mother-in-law. But yes, but next week we solved the problem. And how? Thanks to Pudu. Because Pudu was the next opening party, and Pudu said that the opening party cost was 1.5 million. We were lucky. And of course, our party was also 1.5, but we don't say this in stone, and you don't tell me also. That's why it like lessons learned that our focus was on art, but the media main problem was the cost.
Thank you, Kuldar. We'll come back to you. Can you hear okay? The microphone's working. I'm going to turn to Frida next, and going to come back to that E word, the emotion. We've seen lots of very positive things, hearing about Veszprém-Balaton 2023, but has the emotional side of things continued positively in the nearly 9 months since it was all over?
Yes, I think. Can you hear me? Yes. I think definitely, but I think it's important to mention that I remember, and you were there as well, in the beginning, when we all had to explain to ourselves as well, to our partners or future partners, for the locals, what is ICOC, what it will mean to you personally, for your life, or for your professional life. And it's the same thing with the ICOC legacy, because for like 6 years in Veszprém, it was always about like 2023. And there was no 2024 in the talks. And now we are in the middle of 2024. And we also need to grow up professionally, and also the locals, the partners, need to grow up for the legacy. And also has to have a vision to explain the vision to ourselves, or rather to create this vision for ourselves. So I think like in each city, after the year has ended, of course you have a bit of rest, all of our partners, because in our feedbacks, maybe not today, but in our personal chats, and we had some workshops, almost everyone mentioned that the years before and the year of ICOC meant so much work, maybe beyond their capacity, because they wanted to do their best. They wanted to do the project they were always dreaming of. And we all needed some rest to breathe out. But for us, approximately in spring, it started to grow again. What is the vision for us after 2023? And not only the ICOC team, not only the company, not only the city, but what is it for the partners? Thanks.
So positive emotional legacy, but something still to build on. Have a breather and then pick it up again, which is good timing. But I'm going to turn to András, if I may. 15 years next year since your European Capital of Culture, which also happens to be the 40th birthday of the European Capital of Culture project. Will you look back fondly, and what's the kind of positive legacy that you have in Pécs, or maybe things that didn't go so well?
Thank you. I did not prepare to speak in English, so my English will be a little bit poor. 15 years, yes, what remained from ICOC. Professor Richard's presentation did not mention Pécs. That is what remained, I see. From outside, it looks like Pécs wasn't an excellent example for the ICOC cities, but I think that the original program, the town development, cultural-based town development program of Pécs, was excellent. And in spite the problems we had in 2010, the remains of the ICOC period, and mainly the preparing period when the citizens of Pécs cooperated to take part in the project and to give advices and give good topics for the ICOC project. That is what is the most important legacy of the ICOC. I took part in this period before 2010, between 2005 and 2010, and I think this was the most beautiful period in my life when we could organize and moderate the citizens. And this is a special, not only in Hungary, but for Hungary it's a special problem that when we get closer to the realization, then the officials, the city government and the state takes over everything. And it was the problem in Pécs. I think it's always a problem that the citizens feel that they are left out of the project. So the legacy of the ECOC is that we could cooperate for many years. We could make very good projects together, and this keeps on till now. And this is the most important what remained from the ECOC, that citizens of Pécs still feel that they have to cooperate and have to speak to each other. Thank you.
András, I have to say your English is actually better than mine, and but then I'm from Liverpool, so it's always going to be a little bit different. But thank you, but you make a really good point, I think, and I've been lucky enough to witness this here, that it's about the citizens and the city working together for the common good, which is again very much a message that Charles gave in his keynote speech. But it's not, as you say, it's not always an easy process, and both Timișoara and Eleusis have some challenges and difficulties. I mean, I'm going to ask you, Ramóna, how did you manage to overcome those difficulties? Because in some ways your legacy is more impressive than your build-up. And then I'm going to come to you, Zetta.
Thank you, Neil. Indeed, well, Timișoara had a long journey, but we have to understand that this journey of becoming a European capital of culture was more thought of as an experience of growth. And this is why it was focusing so much on the legacy, on what is to be developed further after actually being a European capital of culture in the year 2023. And then it was also surprising to see that in spite of the long journey and in spite of the changes in the governance model, first it started in the, let's say, classical model, having an organization behind it, an NGO, a foundation, an association behind the title, who participated in the writing of the bid book and then winning the title of European Capital of Culture, and how this then transformed into something that is more complex and something that matches actually the size of the city and its social fabric, economic, and the history that Timișoara has. And it needed a wider governance model. So it meant that the municipality of Timișoara, together with the county council, together with the Association Timișoara 2023, and all these three entities in dialogue with the Ministry of Culture contribute to a common goal. So the impact to be much more significance. And this is a governance model that was difficult to understand for people who weren't every day in our process. But as Radka has showed yesterday, my colleague from the monitoring and evaluation that we've done and the studies and so on, we've seen that it has contributed to a certain cohesion, to a consensus, which is a surprising result. And growing from 300 organizations involved originally in the culture program to 800 plus, it is a very positive result, and this is the momentum that has to be further taken onwards. And here is the role of the political support of the municipality, taking on the responsibility to find the financial support, to put in place the grant-making system, the financing mechanism, to be open to these partnerships with the cultural operators, which were not always very comfortable in the way they question some certain decisions, certain public cultural policies, and I think the success comes from here in terms of the legacy of the program.
Thanks. I'm going to turn to you, Zetta, and then to Sara. But I get an email pretty much every week now from Eleusis about the program. Even more than when it was European Capital of Culture. How have you organised your legacy team? Have you got an organisation? Are you part of the city? How does it work?
Well, we started from the beginning in our main program to have a legacy program, and we managed to implement it the most of the part of the legacy program, the preliminary years from 27 to 22, in order to have the good examples, the good practices, and then proceed to the title year, and then decide what we have to have in order to proceed to the future legacy for the city. The good news is that at least 10 projects of our legacy projects are funded by the RRF, so they have to continue at least until 25 and 26. And we're striving now to have maybe another 3 or 4 that are community engagement projects through our program in European Capital of Culture, such as the online radio station, the Open University initiative. And the most important for me now, in parallel with this RRF program, is there is an initiative from a part of the citizens to form a new organization named Eleusis Arts and Culture in order to proceed in their own in the cultural program and remain and retain some of the good aspects of the program and implement some local aspects that they wanted to have more. Secondly, also very important, it was another initiative from the youth party of the city, really rejected before, named Kaltera. They have a new organization and a totally new venue, an abandoned place in the city that became now a meeting point for the youth people with a skate park, a lot of events. So I'm optimistic about the future. Finally, I'm a little bit worried because we had too many changes, as you. The last change was after the municipal elections in November 23. So we have to convince again from the beginning the new municipality and the new mayor that it's worthy to go on with the legacy program. And it was good for the city because, you know, Eleusis has this very heavy, had this very heritage before the title year. That means that we have this ancient history with the archaeological site. Eleusis was one of the 5 most important sanctuaries in ancient Greece. This is the good aspect, the history, but we had also the opposite, the very dramatic aspect of industrialization and the very heavy pollution of the city and the seafront. So it was about time, it was the right time to move on with this transition, and that's why we've called our program Mysteries of Transition.
Transition is always a mystery, and but you've done it very well. We'll come back to the group a little bit later about this question of political support, because I think it's a very important one for the legacy. It's a good point. I'm going to ask Sara, you haven't spoken yet, but you know, we've been very impressed with Novi in terms of how you've got this very kind of solid organisation to carry on with things after European Capital of Culture Year. Tell us how you're organised. Is that a separate foundation from the city, and how are you funded and for how long? How does it work?
Well, first of all, it's really great to be here. Thank you, Neil, and to hear everyone's experiences. They're different, but somehow we have a lot of things in common. Novi Sad has a foundation that was running the European Capital of Culture. It was founded way before the title year, so that kind of formation remained the same, and I think that's very important to kind of keep that stability in place. It is founded by the city. Actually, it's kind of a sister company, you can say, of a cultural center of Novi Sad, which is also founded by the city. And I do hope that that will remain unchanged because we were Capital of Culture in 2022. Now, in 2024, end of 2024, like the project is finishing. So I do believe we're now working on the kind of a new model, which may be just the continuation of what we've done before. But I think there will be some changes because I believe that budgets will be cut down a bit. So we're now at this very interesting turning point. The good thing is that we have started with our programs also way before the title year. So the citizens and the decision makers are very much used to having a Docek, having Kaleidoscope of Culture, having a lot of international projects that we've been applying for the past 7 years now. So in that sense, we didn't play on the card of only European Capital of Culture title year, but we were preparing citizens and politicians, decision makers of the importance of the culture and this international outreach before. And obviously there is really good response to that. And positive attitude that they want to continue with whatever we were doing so far and before. We did, of course, after the European Capital of Culture, as many other cities have had to cut down on staff. We had a big team during the title year because we were doing in-house communications and marketing and also part of production. We had a fundraising team in our company, so we tried to focus as much as possible on our resources and, of course, involve the independent artists in the scene. We had over 6,000 artists in the title year and over 4,000 events, and most of the NGOs and all the institutions were involved. So in that sense, it is all very positive, and even tourists that attended the title year and that were involved, that they were there, more than 90% have positive attitude towards Novi Sad. I'm picking this information because we finished the report, so I can play with numbers a little bit. So yeah, overall, really positive, and I do hope that it will continue because, of course, it's a huge impact on the city. But as we all know, it doesn't only depend on us, it depends a lot on people who are financing it. A lot of things are changing in Europe in general when it comes to arts and culture. So yeah, I'm positive.
Good to know you're positive. What about here, Frida? You know, in terms of the organisational model, it's still, you know, in development, isn't it? What's the plan? Is there a clear plan for a post-ECOC organisation here in Veszprém?
Yes, but I wouldn't call it post-ECOC. It's like a continuous organization in our case. Of course, it's changing. Right now, we're in the middle of the administrative part of finishing our program of the past 4, 5, 6 years. But a part of it, as I mentioned, the organization changing because some of the infrastructural development and cultural development that happened in Veszprém is operated by our company or will be operated by our company. So, but I think it's really important because it means it has a permanent place in the city. So it's not, maybe it started as a project company or how we call it, but now it turned into a cultural institution, and not only of the city, but also hopefully in the future of the region. And of course, it also depends not only on money, but maybe it's an important factor. And we also started from last year on to develop international programs together with other ECOCs, with other UNESCO cities, UNESCO creative cities. which will hopefully get some funding not only for Veszprém cultural life, for capacity building, but also to maintain the regional cooperation in some specific fields of culture.
Yeah, I mean, it was very obvious, even from the minister's intervention just before the coffee break, that there's plenty of money out there, and she's very desperate for lots of applications from this area. So that's a very positive thing that I can hear. Okay, thanks. And Kuldar, turning to you, I mean, you're still, I guess, thinking about your legacy. I mean, I know the Estonians are very well organised, and they've always got a plan. But have you got a plan for next year already?
Yes, we have a plan. This is actually the first time in history when Tartu and Southern Estonia with 20 municipalities are making something together, all together. And our first option is that this cooperation, what we achieved, we have to continue this cooperation. And our foundation will continue. And this is not only culture cooperation what we are planning, but also business and tourism and so on. But this is not easy because some municipalities are strong enough to do not cooperation. And I just got a message that one city mayor said that they are strong enough without Tartu. But I know how to solve also this problem because I know that this mayor is in the same party than our Ministry of Regional Affairs, and I will call to Regional Affairs Ministry, and they will talk with each other. And I'm sure that this city will be also in our team. But I just explain that how this is not easy to manage with different municipalities and to do a cooperation. But yes, we have to do this European dimension cooperation in future also.
Thanks. I'm going to switch subjects a little bit because the mayor, when he spoke yesterday, when he opened the conference, he made a very good point, I think, because it's and András mentioned that as well. This is very much a learning experience when you're delivering the European Capital of Culture. There's no handbook. It's not like the Olympic Games where the swimming happens in the first week and the 100 meters in the second week. You know, you have to kind of make it up and you learn. I'm going to kind of, but also you share. But I was going to say, one of the things that we always try to do is reach people who don't normally come to museums, galleries, the theatre and so on. I'm going to ask each of our participants, who was the hardest group to reach in your city? And did you reach them? Or, you know, if you haven't, what would you do differently to reach them next time? Does anyone want to go first in terms of the hardest group to reach? Oh.
I think almost all of us will have the same answer.
Well, let's see. Go on, then.
Yeah, the young generation. It's always a talk among cultural professionals, like how to involve, how to engage, how to make a proactive part of cultural activities, the younger generations. I mean, I don't mean like children, but no, that's not your answer. No, sorry.
Young generation is, we have okay, but we have a very old generation who are living at countryside alone and who are thinking all the time that government is guilty.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. You know, it might vary in different parts of Europe, but there is an issue about the sort of 18 to 30 group, and you know, do they see relevance in culture these days, in culture in its traditional sense? Although Charles pointed out yesterday, I was in Katowice in Poland. He mentioned Katowice because they're becoming a really big gaming hub. But I know that Zetta mentioned the youth party. Well, if you put youth and party together, that's quite a good way of attracting them, isn't it? But you've been successful with young people, you think?
Yes, because Caltera wasn't formed before European Capital of Culture. It was a small group of young people desperate in a grey and dark city, as was Eleusis. So after the nomination was really a brilliant moment for them, that something could happen in the city. They approach on their own European Capital of Culture, and they offer their services and they gain experience, and now they are ready to continue the legacy. For us, it was the worst part of communication and exchange and mutual understanding was with the municipality and the mayor, always. We've changed 3 times members of municipality and mayor. And frankly, I believe that none of them was from the beginning positive about ECOC history, but at the end they convinced. So that's why we're worried now to convince again the new mayor and the new members of the board. I would like to point something. It's one of our crucial statements in our report that we need more the presence of the European Commission after the Melina Mercouri Prize. And we also need to have this collaboration between municipality, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Internal Affairs and the periphery, because they are, those 3, the funds for the European Capital of Culture. So they have to share in the same time equally the final decisions and not only the municipality.
Okay. We'll come back to politics in a little bit because I think it just keeps rearing its head. But I'm going to ask Sara first and then maybe you, Ramóna. Most difficult group?
Well, I was just thinking now, as you asked, I think we had a bit of a struggle to involve the really acclaimed artists who thought that they were above the title of European Capital of Culture and they didn't think they needed us. So it took some time to break the ice over there. And when it comes to youth, they really gradually became very fond of European Capital of Culture, but in the beginning it was a little bit difficult to just make people understand, the artists understand that this is actually for them. We are not imposing anything on them. We just need to include everyone. Yeah, but the ones who are very established, acclaimed, they were a little bit difficult to tackle, I would say, yeah.
So Ramóna, then András.
Yeah, continue it. I have to go back a little bit. I'm an architect and I'm independent of the municipality and the state institutions. And as architect for us, the Pécs ECOC was a town development project where architecture was very important. And architecture gives always something new to our surroundings, to our environment. And therefore, for us, the most important was to explain it to the people that the contemporary architecture, what can the contemporary architecture give to them in buildings and in spaces, in streets and squares. Therefore, for us, it was very important to announce a lot of architectural competitions. And after the competitions, as they were realized, our projects were based to explain these new things to people. And I think this is something which is a great value of the ECOC period, that Pécs, which was always very proud to its history, 2,000 years and everything, but also was very proud that Pécs was always had an important role in contemporary art, music, architecture, painting, and other arts. And after the ECOC years, I can say that Pécs remained the place which accepts, which wants to take part, to make new things, because we think that the tradition is one thing, we have to keep it, but culture is something which is going on. And if we don't add to it or new things, that it stops, and then it lost its values. And this happens in Pécs in spite of every program which happened in the ECOC period, but it remained.
Yeah, I think I'll just come on to Ramóna. I think that you're right, that a built legacy, you can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, and certainly that combination of program and place, if you like, is really important, and that's something you can definitely celebrate in 15 years on in Pécs next year. But you were going to come in, Ramóna, about difficult groups to reach or difficult challenges. How did you succeed?
Well, Timișoara, through its culture program, has already put like at the central focus of the program this audience development ambition. And for us, it was this very important dialogue, because the culture program, it was implemented in a very decentralized manner. So the Center for Project has been giving grants and support, financial support for the cultural organizations, and the public institutions from Timișoara also have had their budgets increased and so on. But it was very important to make them understand that they need to step out of their usual audience that comes to their events. And in this regard, I think there's still a lot of work that we need to do in these cultural mediation programs. And Raluca was showing yesterday in her slide, I'm coming back because I want to make a connection always with the data that we have now about this equal kind of division between workshops, arts exhibitions, and concerts. So what we tried to do, and it was difficult to make it understand for the people coming to a cultural event that you are not just a consumer, but you are a participant, and what it means to participate, and what it means to have an active role in a cultural event. And I think this is a long-term mission. It's not over, and it's a very challenging one. And we are challenging the culture scene in Timișoara to assume this role of putting the people in, asking questions, participating in city life through a democratic, participative manner.
I'm also quite interested in kind of best practice and things you're very proud of and want to share. I mean, if there was something to give to Veszprém, for example, for 2024 onwards, something you think, we had this great idea, why don't you do that? Is there anything you'd like to pass on? Or, for example, Frida, for you, is there something we mustn't, whatever we do, we mustn't stop doing X, whatever X might be? Is there an X for you, an X factor?
That's a tough question. But I would mention, and I think it was maybe mentioned yesterday or today's one presentation or like talks, but is considered, I think, also for us, but I know that all the other ECOCs, when they are visiting us and we introduce our street management program as an idea that, it was also mentioned many times today, that culture is not only music and concerts and exhibitions, but the way we live in a city and how we use it as well. And so filling up the small empty places in the historical center of Veszprém with some hospitality services or creative services, depends. We had more like 20 projects in this program, and it really changed the atmosphere of the city center. And not only the atmosphere, but also the everyday cultural consumption. I don't really like this word, but there are no other words invented for this yet, of the locals. So how live music became the part of the everyday life of many people who maybe don't go to the concert in the Hangvilla, in our main concert hall, because you have to buy a ticket, you have to decide in advance for months. It can't be a spontaneous decision to be part of some experience. And in this model, it's like a small funding scheme. It's like financing the risk, how to enter a market in a small city. It might be easy in a big city, in a capital, because there is always always a group of people who would be definitely interested in your service, or almost. But in a city of 60,000 people, it's much more risky. And with our funding scheme, we could finance this risk. And I'm really proud to say that all of these services are working now. They continue they decided to continue their cultural programs as well. They started to apply for different funds. They started to build up some international cooperations, even without us, without our help, without our motivation.
Yeah, I do think that is a really great example, and I quote that back in the UK, for example, particularly to smaller cities. You know, we call it Tumbleweed Tuesday. You know, the city's empty, and I think that is a really, really good example of imaginative use of, you know, the nighttime economy supporting good business. I think that is an outstanding example of best practice, which is great to see continuing it. But what about our colleagues? I mean, I know one of my favorites from Timișoara, Ramóna, but maybe you can tell the guys about this because it's relevant to here too.
Well, I think the most important thing is to keep the doors open and to continue this adaptability and resilience in that an ECOC program implementation brings. But when I'm saying keep the doors open, is we are in a lucky, let's say, situation in Timișoara with this open dialogue between the municipality and the cultural operators through the Center for Projects and its role in the governance of the program.
But what about the cinema? Tell me about the cinema project.
Yes.
Come on. I want to hear it.
That's an essential part, actually, and it's a very positive result. Although Timișoara hasn't invested so much in cultural infrastructure, we don't have what you see here in Veszprém today. Currently, hopefully in the future, we will. But it was a strategic move towards opening up cinemas, public cinemas in the city, and having really arts films shown and programming. So, and behind this, there's always a human factor. There's an incredible team with us in the Center for Projects, which are working very closely on the programming. We have very different film festivals coming to Timișoara, wanting to show their movies in these venues. And we started in 2022 with one cinema with about 200 places. Then last year we opened another one which is double the size. And towards the end of the year, we are going to open a studio cinema, which is smaller. It has 60 places. But yeah, and there is audience for this. So it is a surprising and very, very successful story from Timișoara.
That's brilliant. And I mean, that's a great example for Photon here, isn't it? About the possibilities that, you know, I mean, even in Liverpool, which is a city in a conurbation of 1.5 million people, you know, you struggle sometimes to see anything that's not in the kind of the mainstream blockbuster stuff. So I think it's a great initiative. And what about, or maybe Sara and then Zetta? What, you know, what's the big takeaway? What's the big thing that you think you'd like to share?
Well, since we touched upon these infrastructural projects, I think it's relevant to mention that during, as initiative of European Capital of Cultures in the city, around 40,000 square meters of cultural spaces outside and inside were adapted for the needs of culture. Currently, we have 12 cultural stations, and I think it's a really cool model of decentralization of culture, especially during, for example, our program Doček, where people are used to having concerts and international artists performing in the city center. However, you're not really, you get surprised when in a kind of suburban area of Novi Sad, you can say even a remote area village, you have a really good international artist performing, and then you bring in people who are both living in that area and also outside. They come even from Belgrade and other cities. So I think that's very good model of spreading out the culture outside the city center. And currently we have, for example, Kaleidoscope of Culture, a legacy program, which is happening in Creative District, which is the biggest infrastructural project of European Capital of Culture. And hopefully in the next few years it will be completely finished. And if everything goes according to the plan, it is supposed to be a hub for creative industries and artists to share their talent over there. And this is definitely a breakthrough for Serbia, because even Belgrade is following the example of Novi Sad when it comes to these district areas. For example, they're doing something in this Belgrade waterfront area, which is inspired by what we've done in district, which we're kind of very proud of. So I think that's quite a success.
That's also another good thing, you know, to influence the capital is a good thing. Zetta, as well as your youth program, is there anything you think we did this really well? I want to share it. I'd like some of the weather, I think, back in the UK, but maybe it's getting too hot now.
Okay, let's say that I'm optimistic that the youth people are going to push the situation for this continuity. But in the same time, I believe that it's important for any kind of continuation, cultural continuation and expansion and economical and tourist evaluation of all this to maintain the people's engagement, the community engagement, because you know, Elefsina, it's a mosaic city with 20 different cultural identities and geographical identities from all over Greece and Asia Minor and Pontus and now migration people also. And in the same time, it's a very, very introvert city. ECOC was the best experience to gather together. So the goal is to maintain this engagement of the people on the program, in their own program maybe, cultural program. And secondly, I'm worried a little bit about this. We had a great success in infrastructure section, creating 10 new venues. Eleusis had nothing before except an open-air theater, nothing else, not a closed venue. So we succeed to have 10 new venues, different kind of venues, but multidisciplinary for every kind. So my concern now is to maintain the cultural identity of these places and not decline and become malls or supermarkets as we saw before after the Olympic Games 2004 in Athens.
Yeah, we might come back to the infrastructure and how you maintain a bigger infrastructure. We might ask András and also Frida about that. But Kuldar, just before we go on to that, I mean, is there something that you've learned, you think you'd like to share? I know that political support was one good thing, but is there anything? What's your best hand on?
I think this political support is very important, and I think that Veszprém is very lucky that the city and the mayor is the same from the beginning. We have the same in Tartu, and this is very, very supportive. But for me, let's say the biggest surprise maybe was that the topic mental health is very popular in Estonia, and one of our partners organized stand-up comedy about mental health, but actors were not professional actors, but they were like a simple people, doctor, teacher, IT guy, and cleaner, and so on, and they told about her or his life, what's going on and what are challenges. And 20 plays all sold out, and we decided to support them a little bit more, and they will continue in October, November, when in Estonia will be dark again.
Yeah, the dark humor and culture, and you know, the positive impact on mental health is something that's very much part of the coming makeup of cultural connection, I think. Let's talk about that infrastructure thing that Zetta mentioned. I mean, András, maybe you and then Frida. You know, has Pécs benefited 15 years on from the infrastructure that you developed, and how?
Yes, we use all the infrastructure and cultural institutes which we established or we built in 2010. As best practice, I also only want to explain one thing of them. The concert hall, the Kodály Center, at the beginning and in the preparation period, the city and skilled people, so engineers and cultural entrepreneurs worked together, and they worked out a project for this concert hall. And we architects, we pressed that we have to make an international architectural competition, and the competition was successful, and the result is successful, and we have a very, very nice concert hall. But it's not only what is important, because we have also a good institute in this building, and we have a resident orchestra, and altogether the Pécs Concert Hall is, I think, a small cultural center for the region, and the best concert hall in southern Hungary, but I think that also in Hungary. So what the practice is, I should like to impress that at the beginning, if the project is worked out well, and people are enough skilled to make a good future scope for the institute, then the result will be also good.
Great. And here, you know, we're in a very impressive piece of revitalized. It's not new infrastructure. It's a revitalized building, very, very skillfully done. It's very impressive. Veszprém. Everyone says that. Frieda, but is there a worry that you could sustain the level of involvement over the next 5 years in all of these new places that are open?
Of course, there is always a concern, but and I think especially big major infrastructure developments need some time to settle in the everyday life of the city. But I want to go back to the beginnings when we made these surveys about what are the missing gaps here in Veszprém when it comes to the cultural community life, and there was in the top 3 of the list there were never a new festival or more concert exhibition, whatever. It was always in the top 3 places where we can be together, where we can practice our hobbies. From the young people, there were places that are free to use. They don't need. There is not a pressure to consume, to spend money, and of course our big infrastructural developments like this place are the most visible. But in the background, we had this smaller project, for example, to renovate the Old Cultural Center for a rehearsal room center for the local bands from some local creative entrepreneurs as a studio, or, for example, the recreational area of the campus of the University of Pannonia, which was literally pulled down the walls between the city and the university, and now it's a really nice place where you can, old and young people can just go and play from table tennis to play basketball. So this changed really the everyday life of the people. And for example, here the Acticity, now we sit here in this big room, but the rest of the small rooms, they are used by groups of dance, different sports and movement, because earlier they practiced in some rented spaces, in the occasionally free spaces of the cultural center. So we saw what is the demand side for its infrastructure. And I think also it really needs some time to get the place that all the groups and all the people start to use them, but it's on its way, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good way of putting it. I think people have got to learn to use and to appreciate the new things that have been built for them, and hopefully, as András says, with them, I think. So I think we've got a few minutes left. Nora, have we a few minutes? Yeah, about a minute left. So I'm going to ask. So I'm going to ask a very quick question of everybody. In Liverpool, I was known as the guy who got the taxi drivers involved in cultural life. That's a long story for another day. But I always liked the thought of the bus driver, he or she. If you got on the bus in Veszprém and said, you know, what was European capital of culture like? What would the bus driver say? What would the bus driver in Tartu say, Kuldar?
I think he or she will be very sad that it's over. And when you feel what you lost when it's over, but nothing is over.
Nothing is over. It's like the hotel cover. Sara, bus driver in Novi Sad.
Well, I think it depends on a bus driver, but okay, we had some very visible programs, so I think majority of people definitely appreciate that, and I think they would be, they would recognize the value of the European capital of culture. They would be like, it's a shame it's over. Yeah, I think so.
That's good. What about in Timișoara? You get on the bus and you say to the bus driver, what was Timișoara 2023 like?
I think they would say, why are they continuously challenging us with questions, with mirroring our beliefs and mentality and so on through all these programs that we have witnessed in 2023. But in general, we've done a measurement of culture consumption and everything, and it is a positive feeling in the city, in that initial skepticism has changed into belief.
You have very intellectual bus drivers in Timișoara, I can tell you. The bus driver in Eleusis.
I believe that he would say that you turn my life and my work into a hell because of the constant traffic of the pedestrians, of the artists on the roads during the whole year, because we used a lot the public space because of the lack of closed venues.
And the bus driver in Pécs?
Pécs has a traffic-free center, so I should say that put down your bus and take a walk in the center.
Yes, you're in the wrong place to the bus driver. And Frida, the bus driver here?
I hope, and I think he or she would say that it was fun.
Oh, that's good. Well, my bus driver story, I was at Dublin Airport going to Galway. It was just before the European Capital of Culture year. And the bus driver said, oh, what are you going to Galway for? I said, oh, I'm going to a meeting with the European Capital of Culture. Oh, he said, is that still going on? And it hadn't started yet. Anyway, that's another story for another day. But listen, thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you for my wonderful panel. They were really good stories, and also thank you to Nora, because she gave us the best phrase of any European Capital of Culture bid. When we were doing one of our early workshops, she talked about Veszprém having what was it? She says, what was it? You said it was an exceptional and unusual collection of good things or goodness, and I think that's it, an unusual density of goodness. And I think that's very true about this place, and that's why I love coming back. So thank you for having me. Thank you for having us.